How y'all doing tonight, nerds? Texas. Yes. In Texas, we love a tall tale. And that means more than anything, we love a good monster. Howdy, my name's Drew Edwards, and I'm the writer and creator of the long-running independent comic Halloween Man, many of which of the images you will be getting tonight are from that very comic. One other thing about me, I love monsters. My very first memory is watching the movie Them about the giant ants with my dad. And that put a fire in my belly that I have burned into this very day. I am obsessed with monsters. And I also love our home Texas, even though that seems sometimes like an abusive relationship. You all get it. Texas is a unique mixture of cultures that it forms something I like to call folklore stew. And tonight, I'm gonna be serving it up hot as I tell y'all about some of the ghosts, cryptids, and general monsters that roam the Lone Star State. Boo! It's the Headless Horseman. Everybody knows this guy. He's Move Over Michael Myers. This is the real icon of Halloween, and he has had excellent PR agents in Washington Irving, Walt Disney, and Tim Burton. But what if I were to tell y'all that you don't have to go to the Hudson Valley in New York to see a Headless Horseman? What would you say to that? Yes. Meet El Muerto, the Headless Horseman of Benbolt, Texas. You see, in the 1800s, which will surprise none of you, Texas was a lawless, reckless place filled with outlaws that were rootin' and tootin'. And none of them were more rootin' and tootin' than Vidal, an infamous horse thief. To capture this man, the Texas Rangers dispatched a notoriously ill-tempered man named Creed Taylor. Now, when Creed Taylor finally caught Vidal in his lair, he was not content to drag him to court, not content to see him in jail. He cut off the man's head and tied him to his big black horse. And he then swatted that horse on the ass, sending it riding across the Texas hill country. It did not take long for legends of El Muerto, the dead one, the headless rider, to start stirring up all across the Lone Star State, as even years later, people still saw the horse with the rotting, festering corpse of its master still tied to its back. In modern times, people claim to still see El Muerto all over Texas. But beware, this former horse thief is no longer content just to capture cattle, just to capture horses, just to capture livestock. He's out for heads now. Moving on, lake monsters are probably the most common kind of legend throughout the world, probably only being outpaced by their cousins, the dragon. Now, they can be as wild as a supposed giant octopus that lives in a lake in Oklahoma, or as iconic as our friend Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster of Scotland. However, deep beneath these placid waters of Lady Bird Lake, we have a monster of our own. How many people here have heard of her? No? No? One. And that's because I told you about it. Meet Carpy, the giant fish. First sighted in 1995 by the UT rowing team while they were practicing for a championship. This beastie knocked over their kayak. Commonplace behavior for Carpy, as she seems to do it quite a bit. Now, Carpy has been somewhat unfairly labeled folklore. You see, there are a lot of people that think it's a hoax. However, this is not without reason. It's because KUT in 2010 did a April Fool's Day report on Carpi. They did the monster a favor because they popularized its nickname. I mean, Carpi, it's a winner. We all like it, right? However, unlike Nessie, unlike the Oklahoma octopus, indeed, unlike Ogopogo, we know for a fact that there is a grain of truth in this fishtail. You see, in 2022, this man caught a 65-pound fish in our very own Lady Bird Lake. Now, while it's a far cry from the 20-foot monster with fangs that has been described by onlookers, I still wouldn't want to stick my feet in the water next to that thing. How about you? Now, our next monster goes by many names: Bigfoot, Yeti, Wild Man, or as it's known in the American South, the skunk ape. So named for the festering smell that precedes it as it roams the bayous and woods of East Texas. Now, Bigfoot's tails are more commonly associated with the Pacific Northwest. However, Texas has a strong tradition of Sasquatch sightings. You can look no further than the famous Boggy Creek, or right down the street with the Hairy Man of Round Rock. Hell, even my grandpappy told me he swore that he saw Bigfoot while working on the oil fields surrounding my home of Possum Kingdom. But no place in Texas loves Bigfoot more than Jefferson. They have declared themselves the Bigfoot capital of the South. And why? Well, before even the term Bigfoot was popularized, they had their own cryptid roaming around the woods, known as the Wild Woman of Navidad. This has grown into an effective form of tourism for Jefferson, as every year they now have a Bigfoot festival, and if you are in there on an off-season day, you can even go on your very own Bigfoot hunt looking for Bigfoot statues that have been hidden around town. Handsome. Now, we all know this guy, and our last monster of the evening might be the scariest because we all know this guy was real. Tyrannosaurus Rex had eyesight that rivaled a hawk. Don't believe the movies. He had better sense of smell than a vulture, and as of this year, was supposedly as smart as a chimpanzee. Factor that in with a bite force that could crush an Oldsmobile. This is the pinnacle of predatory evolution. But what if I told you that in Texas, the age of reptiles never ended? Meet the mountain boomer of Big Bend, Texas. So named for a horrifying howling sound that it makes when it attacks. An attack they do. Most famously, there was a sighting in 1981 where a pair of the critters knocked a vacationing family station wagon right off the highway. Now, I know what you're saying. It's only 8 feet tall. It's not nearly as big as a T-Rex, but maybe they're just the babies. We don't know. There's a lot of Texas out there. There could be a fully grown one running around. Who the hell knows? That being said, tyrannosaurs are not the only Archosaurian terror running around Texas. First sighted in 1971, Big Bird is an alleged pterodactyl that has been sighted for as far south as the valley and as nearby as right over in Fredericksburg. This pterodactyl has destroyed everything from phone booths to cars, and most recently in Harlingen, a trailer park. So I know what you're thinking. Texas, it's thought of as kind of backwards. It's thought of as kind of a proverbial lost world. Could that also include prehistoric monsters? Maybe, only time will tell. Now, this is my social media. I'm also shamelessly plugging my comic. If you want to know anything more about, that, you can talk to my wife, who stand up, dear. I very judiciously thought of bringing copies which have many of the monsters that I talked about briefly tonight. That being said, Q&A time. If you want to ask me about monsters, if you want to ask me about Texas, if you want to ask me about comic books, I'm happy to answer any and all questions. You seem like a really lovely crowd. I promise I won't bite unless you ask. Yes.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
No, at this point, this is the time when we clap for him first.
Oh.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So since we're still breaking this in a little bit in this new space, the way that we're going to do the questions is you're going to raise your hands. You can pick them, like kind of designate to me, and then I'll run a microphone over to them so people can hear them at home.
Gotcha.
All right. So who you want to call?
Well,
I
think I already called on her. So.
All right.
She seems very eager.
There we go. What's your question?
Was that a spaceship in one of the slides, like right behind one of the creatures?
Yes, that is a spaceship. Tell me more about that. That is a flying coffin that our main characters fly around in, which would be Halloween Man, the attractive character with half a face you see right there, and his much more attractive girlfriend, Lucy, who is a genius inventor, and that is one of the things that that she created so they could get around in style, because, if you're going to go fight monsters, you might as well do it in a flying coffin. Thank you.
Yay. All right, who's got the next question? Oh, okay, let's go ahead and do the Twitch one.
We'll do Twitch.
Do you consider Chupacabra a Texas monster?
Chupacabras are a little bit Texas monsters. I would say they're more of a Latin American thing. They have been, sort of imported into Texas and, definitely have become part of Texas folklore, but, they're not originally from here. And I want to be, careful how I'm phrasing that, because I don't want to be taking another culture's monster. We have so many lovely ones. Like, I barely scratched the surface tonight. I could have done like a whole hour on Texas monsters. We really do love our monsters here. And you, sir?
All right. John, I think that's you.
How many of these monsters have you seen, personally?
How many monsters have I seen personally? 0, unfortunately. I would love to see a monster. The only monster that I have ever seen was a werewolf. Don't ask. I have stayed in a haunted hotel, so I've seen a ghost, although that was in Sleepy Hollow. That was not in Texas, unfortunately. My grandfather really did swear he saw up and down on a stack of Bibles that he saw Bigfoot, and he wasn't the sort of person that was prone to flights of fancy. So I do believe that he saw something. I'm what you would call a optimistic but skeptical person. Like, I love monsters and I love the lore of monsters, and I don't necessarily not believe in monsters, but I don't necessarily believe everything. I'm not Fox Mulder. I don't believe everything that I'm told point blank. Yeah, they get it. At the same time, while I'm not 100% sure that there is a Loch Ness monster, I definitely wouldn't go scuba diving in Loch Ness. How about that? Next question.
I think we got one here.
All right, lay it on me.
All right, continuing on with the Bigfoot. Is this the same Bigfoot that we're seeing images from up in the Northwest, or is the belief that there are multiple that exist out in the world?
I mean, if you talk to the Bigfoot community at large, the general belief these days is that it's not one critter running around, that it's like a whole species of undiscovered ape. Or actually, there's a lot of people that believe Bigfoot might be an alien. I mean, who the heck knows? I tend to subscribe to the idea that if Bigfoot is real, that it is some kind of primate that we just have not classified yet. That's fairly grounded. We actually discover new animals all the time. So, it's entirely plausible that in all the space and all the world that there might be an ape that we don't know what it is. I don't know if I believe that Bigfoot is an alien, but I wouldn't rule that one out. I mean, sure, E.T., yeah.
I think we've got time for maybe 2-3 questions, something like that. So we've got a cluster over here.
Let's take the cluster.
All right, let's do this.
What are the main elements of a Texas monster?
I think the main elements of a Texas monster is, our monsters tend to have a sense of whimsy about it, that like it's not enough that we have a Bigfoot, we have to have a Bigfoot that smells bad. It's not enough that we have a headless horseman. He has to, we have to put emphasis on the fact that there was a rotting corpse galloping around. There's this sort of like grotesque tongue-in-cheekness about Texas folklore that is, kind of unique to our worldview. Like, Texans are a macabre, whether we want to admit it or not, we're a morbid people, and we find that sort of thing funny. I mean, you don't even, just look at Dealey Plaza. Like, Dealey Plaza should not be a tourist trap, and it is, and that's a very Texan thing. We are the sort of culture that turned Leatherface into a celebrity. We are a twisted bunch. Next question.
All right, I believe we have one from Twitch.
Okay, more about this pterodactyl attacking a trailer park. Like, how do we know it was a pterodactyl?
We don't.
We want more info here.
So the other common description of the monster that the press dubbed Big Bird, not to be confused with the Muppet, is that it looked like a giant vulture. Those are two entirely different things, by the way. That is what makes me skeptical of it, because despite both being flying animals, a pterosaur is not a bird. Birds may be dinosaurs, but not all dinosaurs are birds, people. That's a common mistake. And pterosaurs actually aren't dinosaurs at all. They are a vaguely related reptile on the same branch of the reptile family. I guess this is where the nerd part comes in. I am, as far as the trailer park thing goes, that is the last noted sighting. It's from 1985. Several trailers they had scratch marks all over them, and some of them looked chewed up. Although we're in Texas, it could have been a tornado. I don't know. I was not there. I would like to believe it was a pterodactyl because that's more fun, but I'm skeptical. Of all the monsters that I brought up, that's actually the one that I'm probably the most skeptical of, to be honest, because the sightings sort of stop, like they start in the 70s and they stop in the 80s. And when something just has like a short burst like that, I tend to be a little bit more, I don't know, it might just be mass hysteria about it. Next question.
I think this is going to be our last question,
Okay.
and hopefully it will be good, no pressure.
Thanks. I'm interested, for my own personal reasons, in is there anything about the motion or a commonality amongst the different Texan monsters? Motion, camouflage, coloration, anything about them that seems to be consistent or have a very Texas flavor with regard to natural environment?
I think when going back to the skunk ape thing, I think when you think about, speaking as somebody that did grow up in a swampy environment, swamps don't smell good. And if you're trying to camouflage yourself in a swamp, that is a good place to, that's a good way to camouflage yourself. That being said, Texas monsters are all over the place. We have everything from the owl witch over in, El Paso to the mantis man of the Texas piney woods. Like, there are things that go bump in the night and with that certain Texas twang. And if you want to dive into this topic, I can tell you it is a very, very deep rabbit hole, or should I say jackalope hole, that you can go down. On that note, I guess that is our last question. Again, if you want to purchase some comics featuring some of the monsters, right over there, you can get them during the intermission. Y'all have been a lovely crowd. Please check out any one of my social medias, and, happy Halloween.